welcome back. I'm Raviepops, and today I'm going to be just going through some things that got brought up in my meeting and some thoughts that I have about filters and going back through them. So like I said about filters, everybody has a filter. Whether you were brought up in a family orientated household, that means that you'll probably have very orientated family values. You'll want that in your life. If you were brought up with parents that worked and instilled in you good work ethic, then that's how you're going to perceive the world. You're going to think you need to do the work to get where you want to be. So everybody has a filter. It's not just people with BPD, it's the entire world. You see the world through your own eyes and through the way you perceive how you were brought up. And obviously filters can get distorted and can sometimes not go the right way. So one of the filters that I've been struggling with at the moment, and you'll probably know this from previous videos with driving, unrelenting standards. Now with that one, the way it works is like, I took a driving test, right? Everybody in the UK takes the same driving test. This is the best way for me to explain it, so stay with me, it does have a point, I assure you. So everybody's took the same driving test. So in my mind, everybody should drive the same. Everybody should use their blinkers when they should listen to the road traffic signs and not go the wrong way, and everyone should drive, the same. And there should be no accidents because everyone's took the same test, everyone knows how to drive, everyone passed it. And that's the thought that goes in my head when I get road rage, because when someone doesn't indicate or turns wrongly, I don't think, oh, they've just lost focus and they didn't realise. That's not the first thought that comes into my head. I'm like, I've done this test, I would know how to indicate there, why are they not doing it? And that is not a good filter to have, it's not a good outlook. So when you figure out why you've got these filters and how they came about, and dissecting them and taking them bit by bit and working out where they're coming from and why your anger is so at a high, then you can start challenging them. So when I'm driving now, instead of thinking they're idiots, they don't know how to drive, how can they not know how to drive, they took a test, we all took the test, instead of going down that route and letting my brain spiral into anger, what I've started to do is going, well, they're probably distracted. They've got maybe a kid in the car, or I start making up a scenario in my head that makes it less angry and more forgiving. And that's the way I'm challenging this filter. But if I break it down a little bit further of why I have that filter and how that filter came to be, it's simple. Like, I was the bad kid, so when I tried to be good, like, there was periods in my life, right, where when I was younger, my sister was, she had problems. So she got a lot of attention and got away with a lot of her anger problems because she has her own issues. And I just got, you're old enough, you can do it, you're streetwise, go ahead, go out. And so I tried to do everything good. Like, my real mother, she wanted a boy, so for a long time I would be into boys' toys and tried to please her and tried to be that boy she wanted, and then that didn't work. So then I was like, right, I'll be really good at school, I'll go every day, I'll try my best, I'll get good grades, I'll sit and be quiet in class even though it was a struggle. I was like, I'll do that and I'll be good, I'll be the best kid ever. I'll come home on time, not that I had a time to come home, but every time the street lights on, my friends would go home, so I would go home. Not that I had to, but I would go home and I'd be like, I'm home, this is me, I'm doing well, and I wouldn't get any praise. I'm not asking for a parade or anything like that. It was just simple things like asking a kid, you need to be in by this time. It shows them that you're actually caring and you want to know where they are. When you're not getting told to come in, you feel like there's no point because no one really cares where you are. I would be out at like midnight at like 8 years old, walking in the streets, and no one would bother because no one cared where I was. Like, it was simple. So I tried to be as best as I could, and then when that didn't work, I tried going down the other route. I was like, right, well, you keep calling me a horrible child, you keep saying that I'm loud and I'm energetic and I'm too much, so I'll give you a horrible child. So I went down the other route where I was explosive, and that didn't get me anywhere because all that got me was, see, she is bad, see, she is doing things that are wrong, see, I told you she was a bad kid, and then that instilled in me that no matter what I did, it wasn't going to work. No matter how much I was quiet about my problems and tried to be, what they wanted, which was not, not seen, not heard. If I was loud and, violent, again, that didn't really give me results. So I was in this limbo where I didn't know who I was or what to do in that situation. And that's where these standards come from, because, I did things, I did the work, and it didn't work. And that's where it instilled in me that people need, you need to break these things down and work out where they're coming from, so then you can start challenging them and being like, okay, well, I understand that's how I got this way, but how can I change it? So now, going forward, instead of being like, well, this isn't working, they're not driving right, or that person's not doing that right, and getting annoyed because they're not doing it to the way that I think it should be done, I'm now trying to be a bit more forgiving of others and myself, and not think, right, well, this is the way it should be done, because there's no standard, there's no anything can be done anyway. You don't need a rule guide to say this is how life is. And that's the thing. Everyone needs to be a little bit more forgiving of their own problems, because everyone has these filters. It's not just, people with BPD. It's not just people with, bipolar or any other mental disorder. It's everyone. Everyone's got their own little niche and their own little things that they do every day that's been instilled in them. And that's the way I'm trying to forgive, and I'm trying to move forward with these filters. And there's so many that are just like, there's like emotional depravity. I'll never get the love that I need. You believe that your important needs such as affection, protection, and care will not be met by others. People with this filter may have difficulty trusting others, do not easily accept assistance from others, and appear very independent, even aloof. And I think that one speaks to how I was when I was a kid, for sure. I was definitely like, no one cared, no one bothered, and that was one of the reasons why I ended up, leaving my family home and staying with my aunt, because she had rules. That was the main thing. She had rules, and it showed that she cared about her kids. Like, they had a bedtime, they had chores to do, and I know these things, like, kids are like, oh, I don't want to do chores, I don't want to do this, but it shows that you love them. Knowing where they are, knowing, what they're up to, taking interest and just saying thank you for doing the dishes, or, appreciating, them being a kid. Those are things that I needed. And even though at the time, when you're younger and you look back, you might think, oh, my parents were really strict, I had to come in when the lights were on in the street, or I had to, do dishes every week. And you might think those things are bad, but coming from my point of view, I needed those. I craved those. All I wanted was rules. And no matter how much I screamed and shouted about them, it never came. And that's why it's left me in this situation where I have no emotional range. Well, I have too much of emotional range, should I say. Like, I can't regulate, because I don't know where the balance is, because no one taught me. No one said, right, so you've got a cut on your leg, this is how you react. You've got, you got told off and you got your phone took off you for a week. This is how you react. This is the level that you react at. No one gave me those scales. So it was like, if I needed something, I would have to explode in a fit of rage just to get seen or feel like I got seen. Because, again, my job in my household was the peacekeeper. I was the go-between. Like, that was my job. That was what I was there for. Like, and although years later I've talked to my sister about these things, and I've discussed it, and they might say, they might say, oh, that's not how it was in my mind. You went much more to me. You were much more of this or much more of that to me. At the time, it didn't feel like that. It was, all I saw was my sister got a huge room and I got a cupboard at the end of the hall, with 3 windows in it, and it could barely fit a bed. Not that I had a bed for a long time. I was sleeping on the floor. And that, again, that didn't cross anyone's mind in my house that wasn't okay. They were just like, well, you never made a fuss about it. You never kicked up any drama about it. But yet you would go into that room, and in big letters, in big letters on my bedroom wall when I was younger, it said, I hate mum. And the first thing that people said to me when they came in, the first thing Wasn't why is that there? It was, oh, you've spelt hate wrong. It says I hat mum. That was the response I got to that big graffiti in my room on my wall. You know, it wasn't why, it wasn't how you feeling, why do you feel like this? It was, oh, you spelt that wrong, and then it was goodbye. You know, I didn't have a bed, no one cared. I slept on a lilo in the hallway for over a year, like until it popped. No one cared because my room was covered in moss. No one helped, and that has left me feeling like I'm not worth the effort. And retraining that, rethinking that you're not worth anything and that you're just there to keep the peace is so difficult. It is such a hard thing to overcome once it's drilled into your head that you're not a person, you're not worth the salt that you're only worth what you can do to others and what you can provide, and making sure that others are fine. That's the tricky thing, to transfer what I do for others onto myself. That's the thing that I'm working on and I'm trying to overcome, and those are my filters and those are where they're coming from. So overall, sorry for about the big rant, but overall, like, when you figure out which filter is triggering and which filter has sparked that information and that response, then you can go, right, where's that coming from? And then you can start fighting it with evidence, and you can start fighting it with like everything in your power to challenge that. So like I said with the driving, that trigger of everyone should be driving okay and right because we've all done the same test, so we should all drive the same. I'm now starting to challenge that by going, well, they could be distracted. I get distracted. They could have things going on that they're just not paying attention. It's not great that they're not indicating, or it's not great that they've, done something, that I deem a bad driver. But it might not be their fault. They might have something going on much bigger in their world. So I need to take a step back and not get as angry and think of from their perspective and not just from mine. And that's what I'm trying to challenge at the moment. I'm figuring out which triggers and which filters are activated and why, and then I'm moving forward. So like the feeling like I'm not worth anything, that contributes to my eating. I look in my cupboards and I'm like, that's cupboard food. I can't eat that food in the cupboard because it's cupboard food. Just in case someone comes over and they need food. Like if my friend comes over and I'm like, oh my god, you need something to eat. Let me feed you. I need to have stuff there for them, so I can't eat that. And that's not a good way to think. That's not a good way to think at all. So retraining that by little things like leaving my food out of the cupboard so it's no longer cupboard food, it's just on the side so I can graze during the day and eat, little and often. That's one little thing that I've done to implement to stop that train of thought and to challenge that way of thinking. And that's what it is. That's the main takeaway from, if you've got BPD or if you haven't got BPD, and if you've got, you're struggling with any emotion, try and work out, go backwards for where it's coming from. Be like, why am I so angry about this? Where is this coming from? And then you can start challenging it with little statements like, well, actually, no, I am worth something. I am doing stuff. I am worth, getting myself, a coffee from Starbucks. I'm worth that £2. I'm worth that little bit of kindness to yourself. And again, if you don't challenge these things, you're just gonna, it's like that poem, you're just gonna keep going down the same street over and over again and expecting things to change when you're not challenging it and when you're not making the effort to change. That's when it gets dangerous. That's when the emotional whirlwind comes about and you go into a frenzy and things, you lose friends, you lose a lot, in an emotional whirlwind, especially if it's an angry one. Not so much if it's a good one, but again, they're just as dangerous because you can go on spending sprees, you can go on, mad, spend more money than you actually have, because you're so high on just feeling great that you just want to, spend everything and have that moment and have that feeling forever, but it never lasts forever. The feelings always go round. Again, it's a tornado. It goes round. You're going to get bad days, you're going to get good days, and it's just knowing how to challenge them. And on good days, when I'm having a high intensity happy moment, I ground myself by being like, this is great, I'm having a great day, but this is my money limit. This is all I'm taking out with me, because then I can't overspend. I can't go crazy and buy like every single person in the pub a drink, because I feel like I'm on top of the world. And I just want that love and that want to fit in, and it's dangerous either way. And just challenging these things by little statements like, everybody's got their own thing going on, or, just saying to yourself, I am worth it, I am a person, I am doing well, and praising yourself for when you do, figure these things out, because they're not easy to figure out, and going back over old things and rehashing old situations is not an easy task. It is like picking a scab. It's going to dig up things that you don't really want to talk about, or you don't really want to think about, but in thinking about them you can challenge that thought, and in challenging it you can change your behaviour in the better way and improve your life tenfold. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm just going back through the challenging steps and the filter steps, and making sure that I am challenging them when they do come up. And I must admit that I've had less anger flare-ups since starting the program, which is fantastic. And like the common the common thoughts of distortion, I think these are a great like little list of things that sometimes you think of and you don't really think that you're thinking of them, but they're just there in the back of your mind. So like all or nothing thinking, let's have a look. Selective obstruction: you take a statement or event out of context and arrive at a gross misunderstanding. I do that all the time. Like, I get confused all the time. Jumping to conclusions: you jump to an absolute or negative conclusion that is not justified by the facts or situation. So, it's like you look at someone and you think, oh, they're mad at me. And you've got no reason to think they're mad at you. They're just quiet. They've just woke up, or they're just silent for a bit because they're just getting themselves together. But you, in your head, you're thinking, they're mad at me, I must go out and try and appease them with like snacks. And well, that's what I do. I'm a snack feeder. Like, I really am. If I think someone's upset with me, I will bring all of the snacks, all of the sweets, because that is one thing that was done to me. Like, I got treats. I got a lot of treats from like some of the older boys. They would bring me snacks, and so that's how I show my appreciation for people. I'm like, here, have some snacks, have some tap from the pound shop that I found that I thought you would like. It's the equivalent to getting a stone from the street and being like, I found a shiny rock and I thought of you. That's how I show my appreciation. And sometimes I show it because someone's being quiet, or someone's had a slight look in their eye that I thought, or I perceived, of them being mad, so I must bend over backwards to make them happy again, even though they're not mad. And it was all just in here that I just jumped to that conclusion. So to challenge these things, you need to ask yourself, I've started going, are you mad at me? Like, I know it sounds quite aggressive, but I'd rather be verbal and be like, are you mad at me because this is what you've done? You're quiet. Is that just quiet because you're sleepy, or are you mad? And I ask the person to justify and clarify now. And that is, it probably sounds like I'm being a lot more needy and a lot more attention taking, but I'd rather be verbal and be like, are you okay? Can you tell me X, Y, and Z that we are good? Because I'm thinking this. And I'd rather verbalize it and get the answer from the person now than just stay up here and stay in my brain and stay thinking about, oh, they must be mad, what have I done? No. I'm now challenging that by getting evidence, and the evidence is by asking the person. And I know it sounds strange, and I know it sounds like, it probably sounds like I am being needy, because I'm always like, are you okay? Are we okay? And I do ask that a lot. I ask it a lot, and my friends know that I ask it a lot, because it's that reassurance to know that I'm okay with you and I don't need to appease you. I don't need to say I'm sorry and beg for you to stay, because that's what goes on in my head. I'm like, that silence, that 5 minutes of silence in my head is an hour of silence, and it's you deciding to leave. It's you deciding to go and never come back because I'm too much. And that's the way my train of thought goes. And I don't want that to be my train of thought because it does push people away. So I'd rather be honest. And I think that's a great stance to take, is just verbalise it. Even if you sound like you need it and it sounds like, you're asking 3 or 4 times a day. But until that clicks in your head that that's not, that little silence or that little glint in their eye isn't something, until that clicks, that reassurance will help challenge that thought of thinking. And that's the great thing. So overall, I think basically the take home is verbalise it, tell people how you're feeling, express it. Even if it sounds like you're crazy, be like, whoa, I might sound crazy here, but a minute ago you said okay, but you said okay in a down tone. And normally it's a higher tone. So are we good? Because that tone kind of threw me off. And they'll either say, yeah, we're good, or no, I'm not good because of X, Y, and Z. And then you'll know the answer, and then you won't have to think about it. You won't have to make up scenarios of what you've done wrong, or make up scenarios of how it got to how you've upset this person, because you've got the answer there. It's paper. It's in front of you. It's like in your face. You're like, yes, cool. Thank you for giving me that information. I don't need to think about it anymore. I can just scrunch that up. The idea of you're mad at me, throw it in the bin, and move on with my day. And that's the aim. That is the aim. So that's where I am this week. Just a quick, quick update. It's like a long rant, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.